Welcome to Get Your Mind Right. Today, we're diving into your questions and insights in our mailbag segment. Thanks to everyone who wrote in. Let's open up the mailbag.
Good morning, and welcome to Get Your Mind Right, the Mailbag Edition. I'm John Johnson here, your host, and this week we're going to talk about speed, staying power, and what it takes to be the kind of professional and person that people want to work with long term. In the backstory, we're going to dig into something just a little bit different today. A story about family and animals and what a mule can teach you about grit, business, and how to outlast the flashy, fast talking types. But first, here's a preview of what we got in the mailbag. We've got Jason Roberts, and he wants to know how to become the go-to payment partner for software companies. Julie Pack checks in and wants to know how checkout frustration can make online payments faster and less painful. And we're going to wrap up today's questions with Sheila Wyatt, who wants to be able to sell payments without sounding like a credit card brochure. Well, let's get into it, starting with Jason Roberts from Fredericksburg, Virginia. Jason says, John, what are the most prudent ways to approach and structure partnerships with software companies to become their preferred or exclusive payments provider? Jason, I'm going to hit you straight because, man, this is where you can make some real money. Software partnerships, they can be the golden goose of the payments world. But you got to approach them like a business development, not a short curve closing here. So here's some steps on how you could go from outsider to embedded revenue partner. And the first thing is to lead with their wins. Talk less about what you offer and more about what they need. Software companies care about retention, monetization, and user experience. Try this for an opener. Say, hey, Bob, I can help you keep your customers longer, reduce churn, and drive new revenue, all without a single development hour on your side. Next thing, Jason, is channel your inner Jerry Maguire and show them the money. Tell them about how you got partners that are earning six figures in annual net new revenue. Tell them about how you've got partners that's adding to their enterprise value by layering payments into their offering. Tell them how you handle onboarding, support, and compliance so their team can stay focused on what they do best, offering an outstanding software and user experience. Next thing, Jason, is making this easy. And you could do this by having an integration plan. Offer them white label options. Share them documentation. Build confidence in the execution, not just the outcome. And the last thing here is to get sticky, because the closer you are to their core workflows, that means billing, onboarding, reporting, harder it is for them to unwind the relationship. You want to provide the kind of solutions where you're not even a vendor anymore. You're part of the furniture. Jason, it's a great question. Keep that mindset locked in and keep going. As always, appreciate you and your questions. Next, we have Julie Peck from Atlanta, Georgia. Julie's question is, John, what could you do to stop customers from abandoning online checkouts? Oh, Julie, this one's personal. That little spinning circle when I hit a pay now button drives me to the brink. Now imagine this. I've went through the shopping process. I've given my credit card and I'm ready to pay. And you're giving me the spinning circle. You're just screaming at me, sending me a flashing red light saying, Johnson, we don't want your money. And for your merchants, customers, well, that's the moment of truth. Here's how you keep them from bouncing. The first thing, Julie, is you got to make it fast, because slow load times, this equals lost revenue, period, full stop, end of story. You got to use a fast gateway. You got to minimize the redirects, and they got to streamline the page. Now, the next thing is for your merchants' users, has to seem familiar to them. Offer them digital wallets, whether it's Apple Pay or Google Pay, PayPal, whatever people expect to see. The next thing, and Julie, you know this thing's got to be mobile friendly, because most people, that's where they're doing their shopping today. That's where they're doing their paying. So this means autofill. It means big button and no weird pinch to zoom feels. If your website is not mobilely optimized, you are leaving a lot of money on the table. And not only that, you're telling your customers you're not serious about doing business with them. And the last thing, Julie, is to make it feel safe. You can do this with branded checkout pages, secure icons, confirmation messages, and obvious support options. Bottom line is if they don't trust it, they're not going to use it. Now, at the end of the day, Julie, checkout is where you win or lose the game. Appreciate you for bringing this one forward. Our last mailbag question of the day comes from Sheila Wyatt from Atlanta, Georgia. Sheila says, John, how do I sell payment processing without sounding like a merchant services walking brochure? Well, Sheila, you just made a lot of salespeople nod their heads in pain here. So let's talk about fixing that. The first thing is selling the problem, not the platform. And this starts with smart questioning. Asking them, Mr. Merchant, what part of getting paid really frustrates you? What do your customers complain about? And what are you sick of doing manually? Then show how you fix that problem. And the first thing is speak normal human language. Instead of interchange optimization, say, I can help you keep more of every dollar that you make. Instead of PCI DSS compliance, say, we make sure your payments are secure so you sleep better at night. These are words everyone understands, and your potential merchants are going to appreciate you for that. I'll tell you another thing here, Sheila. I like using analogies. Like, for example, a slow gateway. I tell my customer that's like a drive-through that forgets your fries. And in cash discounting, that sounds like gas station pricing to me. You see both and you pick. The last thing is I want to make it about my merchant. Because a pitch should always make that business owner think, this will make me money, this will save me time, and this is going to help keep my customers happy. So this is how you stop sounding like a manual and you start sounding like a solution. As always, Sheila, you ask great questions. Thanks for sending that in. And now it's time for the backstory. I'm going to take a minute to talk about something that I know every single person listening to can relate to. Because we live in a world that rewards speed. It's flash, immediacy. Everyone wants quick results, fast answers, and real-time everything. But let's talk about over time, what lasts. Not the fastest or even necessarily the loudest. And you know what it is? You know who it is? It's the ones who could keep going, the ones who carry the load when things get heavy, ones who just don't quit just because it gets hard. And it turns out if I'm really lucky and I'm right, this may run in my family. Here's the backstory. Am I mule tough? Welcome to the backstory, where I take a step back before we move forward. Each week, I share moments that shape me, whether it's my time as a sales rep, my journey as a dad, experiences I had, stories I've learned, or the curiosity that's followed me since childhood. Because every lesson learned today, well, there's usually a story worth telling behind it. Let's get into it. Today's backstory is called Am I Mule Tough? I'm going to tell you something I didn't see coming. Now, apparently, I come from a long, proud line of mule men. Now, to start this off, I never really knew my Grandpa Johnson. I was very young when he passed, so most of what I learned about him come from black and white photographs, secondhand stories, and reverent toned people, especially my sister, those tones they used when they tended to talk about him. But one thing became very clear as the years went by. I mean, this man loved animals, pets, livestock, you name it. Whether you worked, wagged, or walked, Grandpa had a tenderness for all of God's creatures. Now, there's a big difference. It's actually an ocean's worth of difference between people who like animals and people who love them. And I will tell you, animal lovers are built differently. They're empathetic. They're going to feel things a lot of people miss. My experience is they're also protective, especially the vulnerable. I think they also have a sense for unspoken needs, for pain that doesn't have words. And as in my personal belief, some of it's just flat in their wiring. But now I will tell you one thing that they all have in common. They see animals as innocent, not disposable, and that animals are a serious responsibility of human beings. Now, of my Grandpa Johnson's 4 progeny, he only produced one that's what you would call a true animal lover. Now, my generation had about that same 25% success rate as two of my cousins and my sister, that would be 3 out of 11, to clear that high bar of being an animal lover. Well, you may be wondering why in the world my grandpa would want or need mules. Well, he was an old timer. I'm talking way old time. Born in 1889, was 52 years old when my dad was born. And as my dad was the youngest of four brothers, his oldest brother was 24 years older than he, and I am the youngest of 11 grandchildren. That math all adds up. Now, in his day, pre-tractor days, they used mules as a draft animal. Long after tractors were part of his daily life, Grandpa retained his justification for owning mules. Now, I remember as a teenager flipping through some old photo albums and starting to notice a theme. Because Grandpa, well, he wasn't just posing in these pictures, he's posing with mules, smiling. Not a big cheese for the camera smile. I'm talking about real joy. Kind of smile you give when you're standing next to something or someone you actually admire. These mules all had names. My dad remembered the name of every one of them. It occurred to me once to ask my dad about it. Oh, yeah, he said. Dad loved mules. Now, if you're not familiar with mule lore, let me break it down for you here quickly. A mule is a cross between a horse and a donkey. They're strong, they're sturdy, and most of the time they're sterile. And a vast majority of the time, the father is a donkey, known as a jack, and the mother is a horse, which is known as a filly. And according to popular opinion, mules are stubborn. Well, my dad shut that down fast. Mules get a bad rap, he said. They're not stubborn. They're resolved and they're smart. They're also extremely strong. They won't overwork themselves to death like a horse will. They can go all day long without slowing down. Your grandpa swore by them. What? Horses can work themselves to death? Are you kidding me? Oh, yeah, said Dad. You have to be very careful working them or running them. They'll flat run themselves into the ground and keel over dead. Never happens to a mule. When a mule needs a break, they need water, and they need to slow down, they're going to let you know. And the good news is it is nearly impossible to wear out a mule. Now, another thing I learned from my dad, a horse can eat itself to death, literally eat itself to death. It's called foundering. You have to be careful about what kind of access a horse has to food. Again, no such concern with a mule. And I will tell you, all this stuck with me. I didn't think much about it more until many years later when my sister and I were going through a separate batch of loose old family photos, and that's when it hit me. 2 out of my 4 great-grandfathers were photographed with mules. Not tractors, not Model Ts, not a fresh catch from the river, but mules. Both sides of my family. It's like some sort of family tradition, like a rite of passage. Like the mule was the original Johnson family logo you might find on a coat of arms that didn't actually exist. I sat with that for a long time and I asked myself, do I still have a relationship with mules? And if so, what does that even mean in today's world? I don't plow fields and I don't raise livestock, and I've never worked or, for that matter, even spent any meaningful time whatsoever around a mule. But you think about this list literally, and it hit me. Maybe I am part mule. Maybe I inherited some of that same stubborn resolution from my forefathers that certainly not just had an appreciation for it, but enjoyed a certain kind of happiness and joy with that. That kind of DNA that says, you know what? We're going to go the distance. We're going to carry the load. And we're not going to stop just because it gets tough or because it's hard. You think about it in those terms, and maybe I got super lucky here. You're not going to see a mule run, but you also don't see one quit. And that's something. Maybe the reason Grandpa Johnson loved mules so much wasn't just because they were so useful or strong or could outwork a John Deere tractor. Maybe it's because he saw a little bit of himself in them. Maybe just like I'm starting to see a little him in me. Hopefully I got it right there, and 3 of my kids are also part mule. And if I'm really lucky, they'll pass this very, very valuable legacy to their children. So, Yeah, turns out both sides of my family has been teaming up with mules now for generations. And whether it's literal or metaphorical, I'm okay with it. I will take it. You know what? We live in a world that loves flash and fast results, but there's still something noble about the reliable, steady, unstoppable time. You can keep your racehorses because I'm going to keep my little mule in me. On today's episode, our takeaways here from the mailbag: solve your partner's problem, not just your pipeline. And for your merchants that have an online presence, that fast and familiar and trustworthy checkout, that equals more revenue to them. And the last thing, don't forget what Sheila told us. Speak human, sell outcomes, stay out of the weeds, and when in doubt, always remain mule tough. It's quiz time. What's the biggest cause of online checkout abandonment? Is it A, too many payment options? B, slow load times? 3, no security badges? Or D, desktop only design? Drop your answer in the box below. And hey, share this with someone you think enjoy it, and like and hit that subscribe button. If you got any questions or comments, I'd love to hear them. Drop them in the box below. I'll see you back here Wednesday for another episode of Get Your Mind Right.